Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Conservation Travel with Roger Smith, brought to you by Australian Geographic Travel. My name is Eliza, and today I'm excited to bring to you a discussion between our host, Roger Smith, and our guest, Penny Rafferty, a leader in the sustainable travel industry. Penny is the Executive Chair of Luxury Lodges Australia and has a wealth of knowledge that spans from environmental stewardship to community engagement, responsible travel, and much more.
It's great to have you here, and let's get into it.
Great to be here, Roger. Thanks for inviting me.
Now, Penny, something I don't know a lot about you, and I've never really spoke to you about it in great detail, which is pretty silly when you think about it. You work for Luxury Lodges Australia. Tell me what you do, how long you've been doing it for, and what your involvement is.
I've been with Luxury Lodges of Australia since the formation. So we had our formative meeting in the Barossa in 2009, and it was a coming together of independent properties at our invitation, the owner of the Louise and I, because we realised investment in Australia had taken experiential luxury product to another level. The world knew and loved Australia, but didn't view us in the luxury experiential arena. And we faced a problem. How did small, high experiential, remote properties in a very long-haul destination market to the world? It was not possible, so we had to do something collectively. So we're a collaboration. We're 15 years old, and I've run it since formation.
That's an impressive background. And does that get you travelling around the world a bit, selling luxury lodges?
Just a caveat here, I don't race around the world staying in luxury lodges. I'm not inspecting other lodges. It's hardcore trade, media and engagement with potential travellers to Australia who will appreciate what makes Australia distinctive and special and worth travelling to.
How many lodges are involved with Luxury Lodges Australia, Penny?
So it's a membership association. We currently have 20 lodges. We're a marketing association. We're not an operational business. The lodges themselves are independently owned and operated. My job and Luxury Lodges of Australia's job is to tell the collective story to raise the profile of Australia in this experiential luxury niche.
And tell me, is that one of the signature experiences with Tourism Australia?
Yes, so Tourism Australia has a partnership program, and actually Luxury Lodges of Australia was the model for the formation of other industry-led groups that encompass Great Golf Courses of Australia, Great Walks of Australia, Australian Wildlife Journeys, Ultimate Winery Experiences. And then Tourism Australia has its own collective, which it operates because of the complexities around Discover Aboriginal Experiences. But all the other collectives are industry-led, and we partner with Tourism Australia to elevate not just one set of experiences in business, but to elevate these types of experiences that appeal to the passions of high-end travellers to go and travel to do. So there are wildlife seekers, there are hikers, there are golfers, there are safari-type travellers that come to the lodges. That's our collective effort to create an impression of Australia at that level, and then there's a lot of flow-through benefit to all the other operators that we all 190-odd businesses that are part of these collectives partner with across Australia.
And one of the things I've noticed with Luxury Lodges of Australia is that they put a lot of effort into experiences, making sure that when people go to these places, I think there's over 300 experiences I saw on the website.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what defines us. The lodges are much more than just a place to stay. People don't come to stay in a room. They don't travel to remote regions, amazing regions of Australia, to stay in a room. They travel there because there is something compelling to do there, whether it's exploring the reef systems, the rainforests, the deserts. They travel to do. So the lodges are very much in that, I call it safari in Australia. It's the safari model where you have beautiful accommodation, you have an element of rare access or exclusive access to a region or a location that has something genuinely, distinctively, amazingly Australian about it. and things to do there to discover that.
And tell me, Penny, did you draw on that idea, or did the group draw on that idea from your experiences in South Africa? Because I think you did some work in South Africa in the past. I know I'm probably taking you back a long way.
Yes, I did live in South Africa. It was an amazing time. Post-apartheid, Mandela was president, and I was really fortunate to, yes, experience the original safari destinations. I don't think that actually necessarily dictated that what the lodges have created, but I think it did mean that I had the experience to be able to define or gather that definition that this is actually what we were doing in Australia, that collectively had some real power and some incredible stories to be told that weren't otherwise being told around the world.
That's fascinating, Penny. I've actually been to Africa a number of times, and I came to the same conclusion as you. We have got so much in common. The safari concept came out of Africa, but we've got the same thing, and I'm of the same belief as you, is that when you go to stay at a place, if there's nothing to do there, why would you go there other than just lie in bed and drink wine? So
I would add to that, Australia is a vast island continent, and we know this because we live here, but its diversity is something that very many people don't understand. So when I say safari in Australia, yes, of course, we have incredible biodiversity, but we have incredible diversity of landscapes and environments and ecosystems. And that is what makes us very, very distinctive. As a single country, I would argue, because of our sheer scale, from the north to the south, the east to the west, our diversity of locations and experiences is second to none.
And I suppose that leads us into another area, something that you've championed, which is sustainability, which is what we're really here to talk about. Mm-hmm. Looking at the website, at your website, you can see that's a major part of what you promote. Can you tell me why that's important, not just to the organisation, but to you too?
Pretty simple. Yes, some people travel to just go and relax, flop and drop, but the vast majority of travellers travel to experience difference, and they mostly find that difference in exploring nature and culture. So nature and culture are our two biggest capital assets as tourism industry and businesses within that tourism sector. If we're not looking after those, we're eating away at our capital asset. So for me, it was always important to draw the dots between why this location was special, what you would do there, why it was important, and how the act of tourism and the act of visiting those places could help nurture and protect and preserve those very special places and cultures. And connection with community is the other piece. You know, there are, yes, 20 lodges, there's something like 300 odd experiences, but to deliver that, those lodges partner with another 4,000 small, mostly Australian businesses to give it's that rich tapestry of experience, whether it's the gin maker, the wine maker, the individual food producers, the designers, the artists, the specialist guides, the crazy, amazing bird watching guides, or whoever it is that the lodges engage with to deliver genuine experiences that connect guests with culture, nature, and community.
One of the things I find fascinating about the whole concept of sustainability is getting that across to people. I mean, obviously, travelling with purpose, which is one of your main thoughts on this, led you to do some work with Tourism Australia. That's one of the ways that I came across you. And you led us through that is a Kid in a Walkabout nature tours and a Koala Clancy Foundation through something that you called a thought leadership program. Now that started in around about 2020 and then went on to 2024. In that time when you were helping Tourism Australia, do you feel that you changed the way that tourism operators and participants started to think about tourism in Australia to do with sustainability?
Yes, there has been significant change, and there's been global change at both a grassroots level and, to be honest, an awful lot of the operators in Australia know that they're reliant on the environments that they're promoting or the culture that they're promoting. So they are actually already doing a lot, not necessarily measuring it, which is the next step. But there's also been significant change at a policy level, which is where those two have to meet. The grassroots efforts going up and policy at a national and global level has to come and meet in the middle. We're still a long way from a unified view at that big policy level. I think the work with Tourism Australia really helped me to get a series of questions onto the agenda. And so for our industry operators, it was, what am I doing? What is it? You know, sustainability isn't a bolt-on. It's not an add-on piece. It's something that touches on every aspect of business. Some of it is measurable. Some of it is powerful legacy story, marketing material. A lot of it is just the nitty-gritty of operations. So for a lot of the operators, I guess what I wanted them to ask themselves was, what am I doing? Where am I in terms of taking this seriously? How do I measure it? Then how do I embed this in my storytelling? Then how do I make sure that this has an upward effect and I can draw others along with me? And that sounds very airy-fairy, but there are a lot of operators who are actively measuring. And with the lodges, I get them to fill out a spreadsheet every year about who are you partnering with, what are you measuring, have you improved, what's next? Because it's about continuous, incremental, measurable improvement to make sure that what they're doing is sustainable far into the future.
One of the great things I remember when we had the Thought Leadership program on a farm near where we are, I remember you out there in the field banging in stakes to plant trees for koala Clancy. And what was wonderful, though, is that so many people from so many places in tourism were there. I mean, there were some of the main heads of Tourism Australia there, all the way down to just people like us. But I'd never considered this as being thought leadership, but it was, and that was you doing that. And I want to thank you for that. It was a wonderful time. I'll never forget that. But in regards to the luxury traveller, who's the traveller you're dealing with, is luxury travel the only type of travel that can deal with sustainability? I mean, what about the average traveller? How do they go about it?
Just as we do in our day-to-day lives, the practices that and the ethos that you carry in your day-to-day life about, am I disposing of my waste well? Am I being respectful of water use and power use? Am I conscious of jumping on a train, not a taxi? It's the consciousness of the impact of every single day actions. Why should that change when you take a holiday? And there's, back when I started advising with Tourism Australia, there was research that just showed people parked a lot of their ethics around sustainable living when they were taking a holiday. I had an absolute light bulb moment this week talking to a colleague in Europe who 5 years ago, we were at a trade event, and it wasn't just luxury travel advisors, it was many. And she just said, travel advisors aren't going to do the extra work to promote the most sustainable products as being the best option to their clients. They're going to just do what their clients want them to. This week, she literally said to me, was at the same gathering, and there's been change. Travel advisors are taking this seriously because they realise the future of their own businesses is predicated on the sustainability of what they sell.
Penny, I think you've really hit the nail on the head there. The infrastructure of the travel businesses often feel that they can't ask their clients to do something that may be good for the planet because their clients might be put off. There's an interesting thing to do here, though, and you've found this, and I know I've found it too. More and more people are actually looking to do something better for the planet while they're travelling, aren't they?
I think they are. I also think, and listen, there are still people who will just travel and they're very, very consumption-based travellers. We're not there yet by a long stretch. But absolutely, I think and I think this links with a lot of the talk that goes on around wellness and well-being and disconnecting from the digital world, and offline for a lot of people, including me, is the new super luxury. But I think hand in hand with that is an awareness that individuals' well-being is the people are starting to realize that that is directly linked to the well-being of the planet. And so when you're disconnecting, when you're on holidays, it is linked with reconnecting with the planet in some way. And sometimes it's passive, or it's active passive. You're exploring, you're looking, you're whatever. But there are an awful lot of people who actually want to understand what it is they're seeing, why it is changing or not changing, what can they do, as simple as uploading a photograph when they've been on the reef or seen a bird, as simple, to help mapping of biodiversity, as simple as connecting with Indigenous artists and buying local. There's lots of ways that people can do this, but they're not doing it because it's a sustainability action. They're doing it because it actually has meaning, and it's reconnecting them with the core reason for travel, which is to experience difference.
I've found more and more the same with what we do, is that people don't necessarily see it as an act of goodness. They see it as an act of actually giving back. They feel good about it. It's not something they purposefully go out and do. But at the same time, I think more and more people are, when they look at the promotion, they're saying, well, I'd prefer to do this, which gives back, rather than that doesn't. What you've been telling me is absolutely fascinating. And you, as I've said, you've been right at the head of this. And I want to thank you for that. It's been amazing to be following in your footsteps, and I suppose walking together at times. But there's something I always love to do in these interviews. I like to ask people what is their favourite Australian animal. And I think you're going to surprise me here. So tell me what it is.
It may be a surprise, it may not be. But before I do that, Roger, the work that you and your team at Echidna and Koala Clancy do is just phenomenal. And I love what Australian Geographic are doing to elevate that connection with nature and culture. So keep up the good work. And you're definitely not in my footsteps. I'm pretty sure I've been following yours and Janine's for a while.
Thank you.
And this is not a setup, and this is not a suck up at all. But for a long time, the echidna has been my spirit animal. So
well, I'll be.
There you go.
And I just think that's a great way to finish. I actually love echidnas too, and we could talk for hours about that. But look, Penny, it's been great to have you here today. I've always loved talking to you, but this has been a very special time for us. And I hope a lot of people get on board and have a look at what you've been doing and what we've been doing. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Roger. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Isn't it inspiring to hear about the work being done within the tourism industry to make travel more sustainable for everyone? Thanks to the work of trailblazers like Penny Rafferty, travellers are able to help nature and the environment while exploring the world. We'll be diving even deeper into these ideas in our next episode, where our host, Roger Smith, will be having a comprehensive discussion with CEO of Sustainable Travel International, Paloma Zapata. This extra-length special episode is your opportunity to hear about sustainable travel on a global level, from an inspiring woman with almost 20 years of professional experience in the industry. In her work, Paloma has deployed sustainable tourism and economic advancement projects in over 30 countries. There's going to be a lot to learn in that episode. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Conservation Travel with Roger Smith, brought to you by Australian Geographic Travel. To see all previous episodes, head to the Australian Geographic YouTube channel and search Conservation Travel with Roger Smith. See you next time.